Hey, everybody. It's Dana Robinson coming to you Thursday mornings, 9 a.m. Pacific time, office hours. Today's office hours, keeping it simple, talking about mentorship. Um, got a couple of questions from people about mentorship that have come in. Mentorship's a subject in my book, which you should all be buying if you follow me, taking my courses. Think I'm a fun guy to hang out with. Read The King's Fly Swatter. It's a great story for people aspiring to be entrepreneurs, but also a great story for how to advance yourself at your job, up and out, or just up and up. Uh, in the book, there's a lot of talk about relationship capital. Mentorship is a key to anybody's success in life, and particularly in business. You just don't know what you don't know until you get around people who know the things that you just haven't been exposed to yet. So, mentorship is one of those things that is elusive for a lot of young people. And to be honest, I think I speak for at least Gen X that our younger generations behind us have probably been raised with parents that were much more engaged. So your parents have been there for you in some ways that, they call it the helicopter mom or dad, the parents that were there to be sure that you never suffered a bruise, never fell down. Look, the good part about parents that were really engaged in your life is that they were looking out for what you didn't know. They were built-in mentors for a lot of people. And then the problem becomes you get out in the workforce and you look around and you think, no one's looking out for me. Where are my mentors? And why don't they just come along with the job? Because you'd think that businesses would bake that in. How do we get you mentored so that you can learn what you don't know that you don't know, grow as a professional, and then move up in the organization? And it's really an ideal idea. But unfortunately, even in larger organizations, there's just not a lot of formal mentorship built in. Now, there's supervision, there's programs to move you through getting trained. But when it comes to mentorship, you're really thinking about how do you get around people that have the wisdom that you don't, and how do you get around people who have gotten to where you want to be, and how do you sidle up to them and and get advice, input, criticism, involvement in your life, in your career development, in your entrepreneurial path, if that's where you're going. So when we talk about mentorship, I want you to step back from maybe thinking that it ought to just be something that comes with the job and take responsibility for it and own it. So how can you own mentorship if you work at a giant organization? It just seems like, you can't just walk into somebody's office and say, "Hey, I like you. I want to be where you're at someday. How do I do that? Can you be my mentor?" So I'm going to talk about finding mentors at work first, because this is the most fruitful place to find mentors, but it's also the hardest to navigate, and there's a reason for that. I want you to think about if you're a few years into your job, you're doing everything you can to do your job, to advance yourself, to learn. If someone came alongside from behind, the someone who's newer than you, and said, "Hey, I would like you to be my mentor," you might be really honored about that. You might be like, "Yeah, I didn't know I could be a mentor." But here's the problem: you don't have time to just become somebody's mentor. You have to do your job, and you have to figure out how to do your boss's job. And you want to learn what their boss does, and you want to learn what their boss does for their boss, right? So the problem with this kind of like idea that you should be able to just get direct mentorship at work is inconvenient. And you don't want to inconvenience somebody, and you don't want to be inconvenienced. So here's the dilemma at a job. It is the place to get the best mentorship, but it is the most challenging place to get the mentorship, because people don't have the bandwidth to give you more than what they're already doing. So here's the game. I want you to think about what you would be able to do if you were mentoring somebody. Just give it some thought. What you could do is whatever you already have going, if there's a way to dovetail that with your mentee, and it's the same for your mentor or mentors. You need to look to the people who you're producing for. That way, the relationship is not just transactional, where you're saying like I'm learning because I'm doing this thing for you, but where you really get a passion for learning from that person as a part of you producing your work for them. So your best mentors are going to be the sort of work relationships that you're engaged in already. The direct report that you report up to is going to be a potential mentorship relationship. But remember, that person may have 6 people, may have 20 people reporting to them. And so you getting some special treatment is going to be a challenge. The best way to approach this is to say, how can I deliver the best for this person to stand out, not to get a promotion, not to kiss up, but to deliver incredible results for them so that they think, I'm going to take a little extra time and lean into this relationship with this employee that reports to me. I'm going to give them some attention and maybe some direct and effective criticism that will help them get better. They're going to invest in you because they'll have a little flywheel where that comes right back to them. So I want you to think of mentorship as building internal flywheels at your job where you're getting mentored by multiple people that are part of the relationships you already have. As a young lawyer, I was mentored by the bosses, by the retired boss, by the active managing partner boss, by attorneys that were above me that would hand me work. I was mentored by paralegals. So, someone who on the org chart reports to the lawyers actually were my mentors because I could go to a paralegal that had 30 years of legal experience working for some of the smartest lawyers in the world and ask them questions and learn what I didn't know that I didn't know, learn the mechanics of getting things done as a young lawyer. And instead of treating them transactionally, like they were just someone who needed to get something done for me or who I needed to get something done for, and start approaching that relationship as how can I learn from you while delivering something fantastic in terms of work product or production, whatever it is that you do for work that improves their life. For paralegals, they don't have to mentor the lawyers. In fact, in some ways, they get tired of the egos. And I'm sure this is the same in a lot of organizations where you have very smart people that report up to people that may have certain degrees of certification that make them qualified. But the people who are actually facilitating for them might be the wisdom in the group. And they don't have to give that to you. In order to get it, you have to take this approach that I'm going to do something great for you. I'm going to make your job easier. I'm going to ask questions and listen with curiosity. I'm going to develop a rapport and a relationship where I get to know you as a person. I'm going to care and have some empathy. If you're overwhelmed and I could just give you work that I need done, maybe I'll scale that back and say, look, I'm helping you manage your workload. How can I be supportive while also helping you get your job done? So whether they are below you in terms of org chart or above you, you want multiple flywheels of mentorship going, and it needs to revolve around the thing that you do for them at work. So this is pretty important. Do not just approach somebody at work and say, I want you to be my mentor. I'm looking for a mentor. There are circumstances that I'll talk about in a minute where you might do that in some relationships that you have, but it's not going to be easy for you to get a formal relationship. And someone might sort of say yes, and you'll be excited, but they don't have the time to create a cadence of meetings, accountability, give you assignments, and tell you think about this. Um, Another way to look for mentorship at work is simply just to look for where the wisdom lives and then to regularly approach it with smart questions where you're really curious about the answer and don't ask anything more than for them to give you their input on that. So this is someone maybe that's up the food chain at work that you don't report to, but who is open to someone walking in their office and saying, I have a learning moment I'm in the middle of, and I need some input on it. I need someone to contribute to my growth, and I'm just stuck. And I want someone who's not going to judge me, for example. Don't judge me for this. I have a question that I probably should know the answer to, and be honest. And then the thing these upper mentors want, the thing that a very senior person at an organization wants, they want you to listen and then follow their advice. You're not going to be able to come back to them again if they give you honest advice and you don't hear them, you don't execute on the advice they've given you. There's nothing greater than executing on their advice, thanking them for their advice, and then having that relationship begin to grow because they're delighted by the fact that you actually listened, because so many people don't, and executed on the thing that they told you to do. So create a flywheel around the production. Anyone that's outside of your production at work, look for very careful and strategic approaches to them that are around a particular learning moment where you can prove to them that you're able to learn, absorb, and then execute on that, and then report back with thanks. I did what you said. It worked, and thank you for that. And I couldn't have done it without your input. So there's your kind of work environment for mentorship. Outside of work. All right. So outside of work, there's a lot of places for mentorship. There's your industry trade shows. There's other kind of meetups. There's masterminds. There's your friendship network where you happen to know some people that might know some things you don't know. There's people in churches and religious organizations where you're kind of surrounded by people who have some common faith and reason to gather. So you might trip across someone in those environments. Those kind of out of work networks are their own organisms that need to be approached a little bit differently than at work. Because remember, at work, you have a reason to be learning and mentoring. And eventually, you'll have a dual flywheel going at work where you're mentoring and other people are mentoring you. Outside of work, it's a little bit more challenging. I think a key to relationships outside of work from a mentorship standpoint is to really pay attention to what people do and not jump straight to I need you for something. So this is just the long game of relationships. You want to curate friendships and relationships with people where you really understand what they do. And a lot of people don't. I mean, half the people I know probably have no idea what I do. You probably have no idea what I do. You're watching my office hours or the recording of this, and you're like, I don't even know who this guy is and what he does. Uh, and so it's important, right, for you to focus on paying attention to what everybody does, asking questions, being curious, because you never know when you're going to hit a moment where you go, I don't understand this private equity thing, and it's important to me now. Who can I go talk to that knows about that? And if you've built some rapport with somebody and paid attention to what they do, and asked questions and been curious, you'll be able to go back to them and say, you might not be the right person, but I've got a learning moment here where I need some help with something. I need to learn about private equity. Can you point me in the right direction?" So the beginning of outside of work relationships is really a matter of being a student of people, caring and having empathy around the real relationships that you're building outside of work. The thing about outside of work is that no one's getting paid to mentor you. If you're outside of your work environment, nobody has the economic incentive to really deliver what you're going to need as a mentee. So it is important to consider having professional, and by professional I mean you pay somebody to be your mentor. There are people who do permanently have coaches that are successful entrepreneurs that constantly have somebody who's there as a mentor, and they're paying them on a regular basis, and they feel they have the benefit. It always comes economically for that exchange. And I think direct professional coaching is a great tool. You just have to be sure that the economics fit your economics, and some of those are expensive. If you're an entrepreneur, it can cost you $5,000 a month or more to have somebody who is in your pocket there, ready to give you advice. Think about the decisions you're making, step back and be objective, draw from their resources and their relationships to deliver the things that you don't know. So a direct paid coaching is actually a great way to get mentorship that is structured. You know what to expect. It can feel transactional, but it really isn't. You develop great rapport with your coaches, and coaches can be circumstantial. I've had paid coaches help me. Well, here, promote the book. Uh, People who know more about producing a great book than I know helped me produce that book, and I paid for that coaching. Another great way to get professional or paid coaching is in a mastermind. A mastermind is a general word for a bunch of smart people to get together and share ideas. You can have free masterminds. I recommend to every young professional to find one. If there isn't one that exists, start one. Find 10 people that have something in common and have a monthly dinner. Have a Zoom call, standing meeting, create some accountability with each other, share what each of you don't know. So you can have structured mentorship in a free mastermind. But a lot of masterminds are worth paying for because someone else is being sure that they're structured to that. So these are group mentorships. You might have a once a month meeting, you might have once a quarter meeting, might have once a year meeting with a mastermind, where you gather with anywhere from 10 to 100 really smart people. And if you're paying $10,000 a year for that, you're going to get great speakers at events. You're going to get direct connection to all of the other members. You're going to have the coordinators, the people that own the mastermind, have an economic incentive to contribute to your growth as a professional in whatever the particular mastermind subject is. So, if you're in real estate, you should be in a real estate mastermind. If you're in a small business, there are a ton of small business masterminds. If marketing is what drives your business, there are a lot of masterminds that are really focused on marketing. A friend of mine, Roland Frazier, runs a group called War Room, WAR Room. Very, very high end, expensive mastermind. It's best practices for marketers and for anyone in business where marketing is a key catalyst for what they do. Um, so find a professional mastermind group that you can pay to join. Um, Go to industry events. This is a thing that people at jobs often miss, and even entrepreneurs. In several of my businesses, it took a long time to realize that no matter what the business is that you're in as a business owner, there's a trade show. We've looked at buying a business in the maintenance of big public garages. Turns out there is a parking association, a big whole nationwide parking association with a conference and thousands of people in that industry that gather together. And you're going to learn best practices. You're going to find smaller groups. You're going to find the industry and the vendors and the service providers that feed the industry. And you're going to find mentorship just sitting around, in many cases, mentorship with some economic structure that incentivizes people to mentor you. What do I mean by that? The vendors, the people who would provide the services to you as a manager in a business or as a business operator or owner, are people who know a lot more than you do because they serve more people like you and people on up in the food chain above you. Your vendors can be fantastic mentors or potential vendors, the people who supply your industry with goods, services, financial services. Uh, there's just so many suppliers that you'd see at a conference that you'd say, oh, we get such and so service from them. I now can reach out to the contact at that company and say, I have questions. I want to learn more. I want to know more about what you know about my industry than what I know. So industry events. The friends. Friends is a tough one. Uh, Going to your friends for mentorship is a little bit of an unfair impingement on your relationship. So a little bit like thinking in terms of your work relationships. What's organic? Well, at work, it's organic that you get mentorship from people you produce for. In your friendship, think about it the same way. You don't want to draw on your friendships, unnecessarily burden your friends with things that are not what they really want to have to do outside of their work environment. On the other hand, friends ought to be happy to talk about what they do. So the way to get mentorship out of your friends is simply not to ask them to be your mentors, but to be specifically curious about things that you know that they know. So if you go to your friends and you're hanging out and you're like, I am learning this thing at work, and maybe you can speak to it because I think in your business you might know more than me. So make it a point of, a little bit like the older mentors, the elder statesmen and women who are in an organization, that you want to draw from your friends organically, and when they freely offer you advice, in many cases this is advice they might charge for. If you have friends that are lawyers, they're mentoring you, they're giving you free legal advice. You need to reciprocate with generosity, and you need to come back and show them that you've executed on what they taught you. People are energized by a mentee that listens and executes. So when you extract from friends something that they know professionally more than you get mentored by your friends, come back to them and prove to them that it was worth the investment of their energy. All right, the last sort of, I guess I'll call it, networks to be careful around are going to be the church environment, the places where you're not bound by obligation, friendship, or the economic structure of work, or economic structure that comes with the industry, vendors, and suppliers. When you're in these environments, you're there because of some other commonality. So if you're part of a fraternal order, or a religious organization, or softball with a bunch of friends, that a lot of people do these things to escape work. They're there to check out from the things that might stress them out throughout the week. So you want to be careful about flipping the switch in a non work environment, or a non-structured environment where there's no economics, and be careful, because people will feel an obligation, for example at church, if you're asking them for help, and so they might give you help, they might resent it, they might not really want to have to do that. So you want to approach them again the same way you would a friend. Look, I don't know if you can help with this. I have a particular issue that I'm trying to learn around. I'm trying to move up at work. I'm trying to get this other job, and it's in a space you might know better than me. So there are ways to frame the way you approach somebody at church or at your softball league that doesn't necessarily invade their space and make them start thinking about work. So, and this is important when it comes to like your kind of service provider, accountants, lawyers, bankers, consultants, the people who charge for what they do don't necessarily want to have to, give you an hour of advice about something that you can pay for. So, for example, if you want to come to me in a social setting and say, "Hey, how do I file a trademark?" which is one of my expertises. Well, that's something most people pay for, right? So that's a six or $700 an hour service that you would pay for. If you want that for free, you have to really think about, well, is that relationship one on which you think that that's fair? And an easy way to be sure it feels fair is to say, I know you get paid for this. I know you get paid to tell people about how to file trademarks. Point me in the right direction. Here's where my question is, and I'm happy to engage you if that's what I need to do to get this advice. In which case, I'd be able to say, all right, I'm going to give you in 20 minutes an overview of what you need to know. That's free. And at the end of that, I'll give you a sense of the timing and costs if you want to engage me or anybody like me. Now I'm mentoring you, it's free. And at the same time, I have set some boundaries that enable me to say, that's what I did for you for free. You're welcome to engage me and pay me if you want more. So be cognizant about the fairness of the relationship. And then be somebody who's generous, and be somebody who looks for opportunities to reciprocate. I believe in the pay it forward approach, which means that I rarely am having someone reciprocate my gifts to them back to me, which is fine. I'm giving out of this sense of my own gratitude for those that have contributed to me to help me make my dreams come true, to make me the success that I want to be, to grow into the life that I have and know what I know. I got that from a bunch of people that I haven't had the opportunity to give back to. So I'm giving back to others. So my reciprocity is often directed at whoever happens to come along behind me, so that I can say, well, look, someone was generous with me. I'm going to be generous with you and contribute to your growth. And you need to do the same. So as people contribute to your life, you certainly should be ready to reciprocate when they call on you. Uh, and if they don't, your reciprocation goes to others, your generosity goes to others. And in some ways, you might be able to reward the people who've mentored you by telling them that you've done something great in my life and I appreciate it. And I've never been able to contribute back to you directly. And uh, in, in in my life, I've given back to others and continue to do what you did for me for others. And I hope that makes you feel good. All right, so office hours. A couple of questions that have come through that revolve around mentorship. Adam asked about my morning routine, and I love it because there's a young college graduate looking for mentorship and asking a question that is one of those questions that is really common in terms of people not asking it, but people telling you what their morning routine is. So, there's lots of influencers that are talking about my morning routine. I've been to lectures and had people raise their hand and ask about morning routine. I have multiple people have asked me about my morning routine. I don't have a morning routine. You don't have to have a morning routine to be successful. Uh, it sounds like take this vitamin and get in good shape immediately. When you just say, if you have a great morning routine, you're going to set yourself up for success. There are just so many more levers that have so much more power. I guess fulcrum points in terms of success than your morning routine. The habits of your mind uh, throughout the day are far more important than whether you have a great morning routine. And the morning routine thing is, at the risk of one of the most important things to your success and creativity is sleep. uh, yeah, when I was young in my early business, I was finishing college. I started a landscape company. I was burning the candle at both ends. I got about 5 hours a night of sleep. I finished my last 2 years of college in 1 year while owning and running a growing commercial landscape company. And I got shingles, which comes from just completely trashing your nervous system, being stressed out, but also the complete and utter lack of sleep. So exhaustion. Your ability to use your most powerful weapons are energized by rest. The sleep that you get is going to make you somebody who's capable of dealing with the anxiety that comes with the unknowns. It's going to give you the calm and patience with people, and have much stronger human relationships because your ability to have empathy and patience with people will be better. So getting a sufficient amount of sleep will outdo a morning routine anytime. And there's probably a lot of people that disagree with me, that say they get up at 4 in the morning and have their hour of quiet, and there's lots of people that have reasons for adopting the morning routine that they have. I'm just a contrarian on the morning routine because my mornings vary. Every morning is different. Some mornings I get up and have the calm of an hour of doing very little and clearing my head. Other times I get up and I have to open the computer the moment I'm up and start working. So what drives success is more around the habits of your thoughts, and how you use your time generally. So you could have a great morning routine, and if at 4:30 or whenever you finish, working, if you work from home, you just go off and play video games, the you're losing an opportunity for using that time for productive learning, for career advancement, for a side gig that will teach you a lot about entrepreneurship, for example. So the use of your time and effective use of that time to learn or monetize, earn or learn, is way more important to where you're going to be in 10 years than if you had followed a get up, take an hour a power hour, get a workout in, do all of the things that gurus tell you to do. You get way further ahead if you're well rested, and then you take several hours of what would be recreational fun time and deploy that to earn or learn or both. So great question. Just from the morning routine thing, um, from Adam. Let's see where we're at on our office hours. Hey, we're out of time. Thank you, everybody, for joining me and for participating in my office hours. I definitely always open to emails and communication. Connect with me on LinkedIn. You can message me. It might take a couple of days to get back. And then hello@danarobinson.com to connect with me. And my team watches that email so I don't miss it. So a great way to be sure that you connect with me. And it does show up in my box when you email me. Hello@danarobinson.com. Thanks, everybody.